So my journey to school 42. So how was it? So the first step is you do the online test, which is a logic test online. If you are one of the lucky ones that passed that exam, because not everybody passes, I think majority of people fail that exam. Then if you pass that exam, you're invited to come to a kind of an open day where they show you the school. You can ask as many questions that you want, and then you just see if it's for you. If you think it is for you, then you can get into the piscine. And the piscine, that's what I did, is a 24 full day immersion experience of just coding. And that's what you do. You just code. And it's for 28 days, full on. And that's what I did. Okay, so then I went into the piscine. So how was the piscine? So I would come in every day around 7:30 to 9 o'clock ish, and then I'll stay for 11, 12 hours a day. Basically, when the first day was literally you get there, you sit down, whatever, and just get on with it. Really, it's a little bit weird because they don't really tell you anything. You just have to sit down and just do it and figure out for yourself, which is fine, but it was a little bit weird, I'm not gonna lie. And then the day-to-day of the piscine was really much, doing, so the way that is set up is that you have a system online. It's kind of a gamification, a game where you have modules to complete. So first two modules are Shell 0001, and then you have the modules in C that go up to level 13, I think. And then the exams are only in C, so just try and do as fast as you can Shell 00 and move on to C as much as you can, as fast as you can, because to be honest, you don't need Shell for anything besides use it on the regular basis when you're coding C. But for the exam, you don't really need it. So I would say just keep Shell 01 and just do C00. And then obviously there's tips and tricks there, so speak with people that are doing the piscine, because in some cases, to have the bare minimum to pass that module, you only have to do until certain exercises. You can do more if you have time, but you have to balance between do more and do less. So I would say just, you have to find your own strategy, your own perspective on things. And it depends on how how fast you learn, if you take a little bit more time to learn the exercises. So it really depends. And my daily to daily work was, I would arrive, I would do a coffee, I'll talk a little bit with my colleagues, and I'll sit down for a few hours trying to do the modules as much as I could in the morning. And then every 2 days, every 2 days I would manage to submit a module. So it would take me 2 days to do each module. And what I would do would be kind of on the afternoons. If I finish the module, I'll book the evaluations for the afternoon. So in the afternoons, I would evaluate my colleagues, and my colleagues would evaluate me. And then over the weekends, you have the rushes. So on the rushes, what you would do is basically participate in a complex problem and try to figure out. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, for people that are quite new, it's very hard. You are expected kind of to learn and share with more experienced people, and the idea is that you kind of learn with them, and then they learn and they expect you to ask questions. And I really enjoyed it. It was quite fun. I wouldn't say that it's easier to understand coding of somebody that has 10 years of experience. I had to do a lot of logic frameworks on paper and on the Windows, so I could understand and ask a lot of questions. But what is good about it is that you kind of learn a lot of new things much faster than you would if you just do the modules. Then the school says that it's fast paced, of course, but I think there are certain standards that they are expecting, even though they don't tell you what they are. And the modules really, I did shell 0001 because I think there was a delay to release C00, which then delayed me to start C00 because I wanted to finish Rush 01. And obviously, by the time I started C00 is literally the time of starting the exam. So on the first exam, so there's each week you have an exam. The level of difficulty will increase as the exams progress. But it's very normal in the school to take grades below 50 unless you're very, very experienced. So on the first exam I took 0. On the second exam I took 10, so I answered one question right. On the third exam I took 20, so I got 22 questions right. And on the last exam, the questions or the score is lower per question, and the exam is much harder, and I managed to do 2 questions, so I got 12. And that was it. That was really the daily to day. You might find that different people that do different boot camps will have different environments because people make those environments, right? And I talked with people that failed the piscine on the first time and were on our second time with us. And what they explained to us was that the environment on the first piscine was very different, much more, the balance between doing coding and also learning and meeting people was better. In my piscine, people were really onto the coding, and not really trying to meet people and engaging with people. So the environment which was much more kind of serious, which I think is good in one way, but for me, I think what I was looking for was that balance between learning and having the experience of learning how to code, but also learning a lot about my colleagues, what would they do, share experience, learning for them, and that was what I was interested as well. So I tried I tried to do that. I've created the WhatsApp group. I've then tried to set up activities as much as I could. I would take notes. For me, that sense of community and engaging with people was very important. And I was very glad that I managed to do that while I was doing coding. So I don't regret at all doing that. The type of people that were there really varied, but the people that ended up finished in the last exam, majority of them, I would say, were professional developers. So either with other languages, either very proficient on the daily basis, that was their job. So you were really, I wouldn't say competing because there's not really a spirit of competing there. It's about evolution, they say. So I think it's about your progress, but there are certain standards, at least, that they probably expect you to achieve. So I think it's good to have people with a lot of experience because you have a chance to learn with them, and I've learned so much and I'm very grateful to them that they share with me so many techniques and so many new ideas. But really, I would say, yes, you'll have people that go very fast, but that's because they have experience. And the majority of the people that progress until the last exam, as I said, were very experienced. Majority of them had between 1 to 10 years of experience in coding. There were only a few of us that didn't have the experience that ended up on the last exam. Just because people quit. I mean, there was a lot of quitting. I don't know how many we were in the beginning, but I would say about 120 based on the percentage of the people that passed. And by the second or third week, we were just 50. And then on the last exam, only 44 people showed up. So you can see like 50%, more than 50% of people quit straight away. I think a lot of people didn't realize that actually this was a full-time, full-on bootcamp. Or maybe some people didn't realize that you have to learn everything by yourself. There's no teachers and it's quite hard. Maybe people are not up to it. I just don't know why they quit. Or maybe because, people were pushing really hard and maybe those people felt that they weren't at the same level and they just quit. So I don't know exactly why people quit, but the quitting percentage was quite high on our piscine. But some piscines are different. There's less quitting. So I think also depends on the environment, on the type of people that get in, and that kind of thing. In terms of, so one of the reasons, as I told you, was I really wanted to go and see the pedagogy of 42, and just understand and see the difference between studying in, for example, a polytechnic university like I did when I did nursing, then going into a very high standard, one of the best universities in public health in the world, which has high standards in a different way, then you doing boot camps and courses like this, then doing Coursera, and then doing 42. So I wanted to see the different methodology, the different approaches that are available to you to learn, and see what best fit for me. So I'm going to share with you some pros and cons between the different experience that I've done. So if you're, for example, a student in high school thinking about, should I go to university or should I not go to university and do 42, you can have a little bit more sense about the different experience, at least for me, and what I felt, the different ways of learning and the impact and the advantage and disadvantage of them. So starting with nursing, in nursing I study at the degree level, but I study in a polytechnic school. So polytechnic schools are kind of schools more directed towards the practical experience. So you would have theory. I think there I had a good balance of theory and a good balance between the practical skills. What I found is that, yes, I would learn very well the practical skills, but then I found, like comparing when I had other experience, that I didn't, for example, learn how to write well, how to make an argument well, how to create new things, right? So I thought it was a little bit limited in that sense, but it's definitely a good option if you want to just have a job, get practical experience, get a little bit of theory to supplement it, and that's fine. Then I did a university, so I did a public health course. It was very theoretical based. I learned a lot of theory. Then you would have sessions to apply it as well, but you have to figure out by yourself. So the application itself was majority of let's do one exercise and now figure out for yourself. And I really what I liked about the experience, and I think it prepared me well in terms of critical thinking, in terms of learning how to write and write arguments, in terms of exposing my ideas, and I really enjoyed that experience. Then I did the boot camp in data science. So that boot camp here in the UK, have a look around because there's loads of free options for you to do in boot camps. The government really pays for you to do it, and you don't have to spend money. So if you want to test out an area that you don't know or not sure if it's for you, don't waste time doing a degree straight away. Just try and do one of this kind of experience of boot camps. Let's say you want to do computer science, so maybe they just do a full stack and see if you really like the idea of this. Or you also have the apprenticeship, so you have a lot of options. So then the data science bootcamps I was telling you, it was good, but everything was there was no community based. Like all the experience that I had before had community, right? In schools had communities, but here there's people always with their cameras off. There's really not a lot of engagement. It was very, very practical. There was a bit of theory, but very fast paced. And the benefit of that as well was that obviously it was free, but I think it lacked of a little bit of critical thinking and critical on the work that you do. So when you go to university, you send a project and they will criticize your project. So they will say, okay, I like this, I like that, I think you could improve this and that. In the data science bootcamp, I felt everything is great, everything is good. Well, I wanted a more feedback that helps you to improve rather than just say, oh, it's great. I think that doesn't tell me really anything. And then, School 42, there's no teachers whatsoever. You have to figure out everything by yourself and with peer-to-peer learning. I think I really like the fact that I have the independence to do self-learning and to learn by myself. Although I think it should be clear to people that there are certain standards that you should achieve in order to pass the PISHIN. Because if I knew that, I would probably had managed my time in a different way. but also because what I think it's good is provides you lots of practical experience. However, I feel like you waste a lot of time just Googling everything to try and find answers. And you waste a lot of time because you have to ask questions to your colleagues, then you're not sure if they are correct as well. And there is a little bit of lack of critical thinking on the way that you approach the problem. Because it's lots of trial and error, and there's not a lot of critical thinking in the way that you do the process of programming. So I felt that, to me, that I missed the theoretical part a bit. I missed the structure, at least the principles and the basics, so I could then start from there and understand things. But you know, in terms of the pedagogy, you can see the difference between, you know, all the experience that I had. So that I felt that it was good that I've tried it out and see how do I adapt. And obviously I've done Coursera as well. And what I find with Coursera is I love Coursera because I can go on my own pace for real. Like, it's not like 42 School that then they expect you to reach a certain standard by X. I can just take my own pace, but there is a lack of community. I think that's the downside of edX and Coursera. I mean, there's no community. You can't engage with anyone, you can't meet people. And I think it's a bit boring about that, but I'm a big fan of Coursera, and I do learn a lot there. So you might be wondering now, what was the outcome? Did I drown or did I swim to the core program? I actually, at 42London, I drowned. I didn't get into the core program. But to be honest, I think for me, I swim. I swam. For me, I feel that I did my best and I swim. And I really, I was disciplined. I came every day, I came early, I spent 11 to 12 hours a day in the school. I came every day, I engaged with my peers, I've set up the community and helped to build the community with others. I've met incredible people and learned so much with all of them. You have such a diversity of profiles. I supported people that were struggle with the program, with the concept, with their mindsets. So, and most of all, I did my best. I did manage to get the outcome that I wanted from the program, which was to balance the coding experience and the networking experience. And but it was not enough. And at the time, with the resources that I had, with the experience that I had, it was the best I could do. Just for you to have an idea of how many people pass, from the core, so we were around, I don't know if it was 120, but more or less that level. Only 25 to 30% of people tend to pass to the core, or tend to be selected to the core. In our case, I think was roughly around 30 people, or even less. So the 44 people that ended up doing the last exam, only around 30 or less than 30 actually passed to the school. What I found was that people that had less than 24 on the last exam, so the last exam is highly correlated with your ability to get into the school, because I love looking at data. So majority of people that had at least 24 and other indicators got into the school. People that got less than 24 on the exam didn't get in. There were a few exceptions from this machine and past machine that even though they got 24, they didn't get in. So those cases were a little bit like, it doesn't make sense and it's not clear and straightforward exactly what's going on in there on those cases. Do they just not pass because they need people on the second machine and they have to make sure that there is a balanced coding experience? I don't know. There is something there that I couldn't understand, and because they don't tell you exactly how do they select people, I think, it's difficult for me to argue. And also because I saw in some schools some people passing on the last exams with less grades. So I don't really know exactly what's their criteria. It is a bit dodgy when you see kind of different profiles and low grades on the last exams and you in other schools and still getting into the school. So for me, it's difficult to understand. But that's their criteria. That's the way they choose people, and you just have to accept it if that's the case. One aspect that is important to highlight is that from those 30 people, around 30 people that got in, only about 6 went with no experience whatsoever. So you can see that majority of people that got in either had experience and a lot of experience in coding, or if they didn't got, they were quite good in making sure that they get the bare minimum to pass. So I think that was interesting to see. There's also a thing that I don't mention. Every week you vote on people. So there is this social thing that you have to vote on people that helped you. I think it's interesting that you have that. I think probably will help people that are like me, like on the borderline side, but probably will not help people. What I see is that a lot of people were very very not engaging with anyone, just doing their coding stuff and getting away, and they passed because they had good grades. So it makes you wonder if they really want the balance of community or not. I think there has to be a certain standard that they might be looking for, and that's it. That's the real thing. I didn't pass, and that's fine. I'm totally fine with it, and I'm really grateful that I managed to do this experience and carry on until the end. So what are my lessons learned from this situation? I know, you might be wondering, what were the lessons learned? What were the things that I would change, and what kind of tips do I have for you if you're doing the machine? So if you are curious, go and check my link down there where you can find the last and the final chapter of this season of 42 London, whether I drown or whether I swim. Follow for part 3.